Israel's role in global MedTech innovation.
I am thrilled about this particular panel. I just want to let you know that every single person on this panel fought pretty hard to get here by plane and get out of Israel. So if anyone has to say thank you for coming here, it's us to this group of people up here, because they fought really hard to get here. So I'm very grateful for all of you being here. Thank you so much. Israel has been near and dear to my heart for over a decade. I try to go as often as possible, and I have a special relationship with every single one of these people up here. I've met them on the ground in Israel over the years. And it actually started off with over a decade ago. I was given the opportunity just to expand the wings and open up a MedTech market for the firm that I was at. And I sat in a coffee shop, Starbucks, nothing crazy special, but it was a Starbucks. And from cover to cover, I read The Startup Nation, the economic miracle of Israel. And I just immediately fell in love, and I knew that I had to be there. I knew I had to go. And part of a chapter, a significant part of the chapter, is actually Amir Gross's father, Yossi's, mentioned in there. And as a headhunter, that's what I do. I track people down. I have to find people for a living. And I somehow found Yossi's number, and I called him about 100 times, and he never got back to me. And about 2 months later, out of the blue, someone transferred the phone over to me, and he goes, is this Giovanni? And I said, yes, who's this? It's Yossi Gross. And my face went white, and he gave me over an hour of his time just talking about everything, how special Israel, what he's done, what the innovation is over there, and I just knew immediately that I had to go. And it was a very short time after that that I was introduced to Amir Gross through Tal Reich, a very dear friend, and I flew to Israel, met the team, and after that it was love at first sight of being on the ground in Israel, and I met all the wonderful people that are sitting on the stage over the course of the years. So I'm going to stop talking about myself, because it's an everlasting love for Israel, and once again, super grateful for these people. But the purpose of this particular panel is highlighting why one of the main reasons you saw in one of the opening presentations as to why Israel is still in the top 3 when it comes to medical device innovation. And you're talking about a very, very tiny country with incredible power, especially with regards to this industry. So each one of these people is going to speak with their own personal experience and their own personal perspective as to how they've thrived and succeeded within the medical device industry within Israel. And starting with introductions and who are these wonderful people sitting next to me, I'd like to start with Yoav.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to reference something you said this morning. No matter what I wear, you're always dressed better than me, which is both inspiring and frustrating at the same time. But I thank you anyhow for inviting me here.
Well, you got to come back next year and try to beat me out.
I know. So I work at HealthAL. HealthAL is the national ecosystem for all healthcare innovation in Israel. It is effectively the grease and the glue behind the scenes of this entire thing. The goal is to strengthen, support the innovation of healthcare in Israel, both for the citizens of Israel and a lot of the work that we do more and more globally.
Hello, I'm Jordan Pollack, the CEO of Vaneway. We're actually a company within the MedX Accelerator. I'll let Shai introduce the accelerator next to me. I'm probably the youngest person on the panel, and so I will try not to share too much and let the people here with a lot more experience talk.
Shai Poliker, I'm the founding partner of Edge Medical Ventures. It's a MedTech fund, recently started operation into 2024. But for the last 8 years, I've been running a smaller fund and an incubator out of Israel, promoting a venture studio, promoting innovation in MedTech, taking companies from early stage all the way to commercialization.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yuval Mandelbaum. I'm the CEO of Discure. Discure is quite a unique technology developing bioelectronic implants to treat a range of orthopedic indications. We've recently completed our second round, a Series A, in a difficult environment, which I bet we'll discuss in a bit. And we're now in our clinical trials. Previously, I've been involved with 10 other medical device companies and continuing to going strong.
I just want to thank Giovanni for your love and support of Israel, because the feeling is so mutual and this means so much to us. So thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
I work with Lifesci Partners. We're both advisors and investors. We are best known for our investor relations practice, but over the years we've built up investment banking. We have market research division. We have a venture fund. We've got a fractional C-suite service. We have an events business. So all focused on life sciences, probably mostly biotech, but a lot of medtech too. And it's really exciting to be here.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Giovanni, thank you for the love you show to Israel. Thank you for inviting us here. Goes beyond words. You described your love and passion to Israel, but you don't show it only by talking about it. You're showing it by actions, actually. And in these difficult times, actually, without entering into politics, it means a lot to us. Yesterday in the CEO panel, basically, we spoke about it. Malta is a rock, but also Israel is a rock. So there is a lot in common, and we can discuss it later. About the introduction, my name is Amir Gross, and actually I come from a family heritage, as Giovanni just outlined, but actually the book is quite thick, and I think my father is there in 2 pages, not half of the book, but thank you for giving him a thumbs up. Yuval, I think, is also related with this company. It's my father, one of his inventions. So part of the family heritage, actually, I was not wanted in the family heritage. I'm a lawyer. And coincidentally, I entered into the business 2 years later after I was working as a lawyer. And from there, the rest was history. I was able to sell 2 companies with great luck and a lot of work. But for me, working in the MedTech environment in Israel means patriotism. 50% of R&D in Israel is about life science. We have nothing else to offer. So for me, it's a big patriotism. Thank you all for joining this session.
I'm Gary Gershoni. I believe that I'm the only non-Israel-based person on the panel, except for Giovanni. But I'm very connected to the ecosystem there for many years. So I'm a founding general partner of Baymed Venture Partners, which is an early-stage med device, digital health-focused venture capital firm. And we invest exclusively in the US and in Israel. My background is as an interventional cardiologist for many years and a serial medtech entrepreneur, and just in the more recent years, I've moved to the investing side of things. I would certainly agree with everything that's been said before, but I think during this panel, what I hope to do is share with you as a US-based investor and with LPs that are all based in the US, what our investment thesis is with respect to Israel, and hopefully you'll come away with a deeper understanding of why this is a very special ecosystem, and one that perhaps can also be relevant to Malta in the future.
So Gary, you teed it up perfectly for me, because we're going to hit all of these on-the-ground Israeli stories, but I think proof is in the pudding as to your investment thesis. As you mentioned, you're based in the Bay. So you're US-based, but a strong connection to Israel, and your investment thesis is investing in medical device companies both in the United States and only Israel. We've seen slide presentations. We know Israel is an economic powerhouse when it comes to innovation within MedTech. Why? Why are you so siloed? What is so special about Israel that it is outside of the United States in terms of your thesis?
Well, I would say that, the original connection is that I have ties for a variety of reasons. But when it comes to investing, I will say that it has nothing to do with ties to the country or Zionism. It's pure greed, and it's pure considerations regarding to return on investment, IRRs, all the things that a good investor or VC should be considering. So as we look, and we're focused in the US and Israel because MedTech is our primary focus, digital health opportunistically. And while there are certainly great opportunities in Europe and Asia, from a bandwidth perspective and a deal flow perspective, that's why we focus in these areas. We're based in the Bay Area and San Francisco, so 30 to 40% of all MedTech is really in some way related to the Bay Area. So that makes it very easy. In the old days, VCs would only invest in companies that they could drive to. But with Zoom and a variety of other technologies, we've branched out somewhat. But so the original connection, as I said, was not related to that. But without doubt, the criteria that we look at when we invest in MedTech is available in spades in Israel. So clearly what we're looking for is a large unmet clinical need whenever we're investing, a very differentiated technology. And what we'll say about the Israeli ecosystem is, whereas, say, 20 years ago, I think that what I saw technologically in Israel was more iterative than disruptive. There's no doubt in my mind that in the last 10 or 20 years, the types of technologies that we're seeing are highly disruptive. We're very interested in investing in those type of technologies, whether they go through the PMA pathway, for example, or not. And then the third is the team and the resilience, the adaptability, the flexibility, the ability to pivot. Those are, I think, criteria that we find amply in Israel. And I was thinking about it before the session today. If you can actually achieve your milestones when you're under fire by missiles, when a third of your employees are in reserve duty, and get out of the country when only one airline is flying in and out to complete your clinical trial, when you remove those obstacles, it's unbelievable. So what we've seen historically in Israel after conflicts is the rebound has been quite pronounced. And while this conflict has lasted longer, unfortunately, than most people have wanted, I think that the anticipation is that there'll be a very substantial rebound. So we're somewhat contrarian. We are investing actively now, even during the conflict, with the expectation that the rebound will be quite pronounced after that's over. The last thing I'll say is, while not maybe as relevant as it used to be, capital efficiency is, I think, something that we find in Israeli companies that is more prevalent than in the US. Great opportunities for us to invest in the US, great technologies, certainly a very large ecosystem, but it's become very expensive. Valuations have become very frothy and really, as a result, interfere with our returns. While Israel has become more expensive in general, whether it's real estate, whether it's salaries, where it has not become more expensive is the ability to achieve milestones with capital efficiency. And for us, as early stage investors and having to worry about later investment rounds, cram downs, and all of that, the ability to achieve milestones with less is very attractive. So I would say that that remains a very important criteria as well.
Thank you, Gary. Jordan, go ahead, Yuval.
I just want to touch on the capital efficiency aspect. And I would argue that it is still very much the case. And I think part of that is the amount of experience that we now have in this very tightly knit ecosystem of medical device in Israel. Everyone in MedTech knows everyone else in this space. And we're not, because we see ourselves, as Amir said, as an island or a rock, we don't see anyone in MedTech in Israel as a competitor, because we're all looking at much larger markets outside of Israel, US, Europe, Asia. But so we are very, very open to collaboration amongst ourselves, and we leverage the long-term experience that we now have in MedTech to make better decisions. And what that allows us to do, as opposed to other companies perhaps in other places, we will take more risk at times, working and doing things more in parallel rather than doing things linearly, which is a safer bet. It's the right way to do things at times. It does take longer and it's more expensive. And the benefit of having the experience to know on what to take the safe course and where to bet or where to gamble a little bit to save and reduce those costs, to bet on where to do things in parallel at some financial risk of things going awry, but because of the experience and the know-how that we have in this ecosystem, I think we can make the right bet more often than not, allowing us to move in parallel and move both faster and more cost efficiently than many other companies.
I think
it'll happen. It just takes a couple seconds to warm up.
I think all true, and I think we could even tie the session, because whatever is said is so true. But I want to elaborate about the finance, about the shekels, okay? We are still, with all the respect to the efficiency and camaraderie that we have among and so on, we doubled the salaries in the past decade, but still we're 30 cents on the dollar on development. If you need to go on a heart valve company in the United States, it will be over $100 million. I know what was the budget of Edwards, I know what was the budget of Medtronic, and how much Abbott is spending now on their Cephia. And I know how much costed us, how much cost to Innovalve. We're still 30 cents on the dollar for multiple reasons. So it's not only the efficiency. In the end, we're 30 cents on the dollar. Another aspect about valuation is that, yes, we are on a rock. So sometimes you accept valuation that a company from the Bay wouldn't accept. So this is the negative side for the entrepreneurs in Israel. But you need to move on, go to the US and seek for high valuation and not to give up because you're sitting on a rock. So this is one of the challenges.
Yoav, I want to toss it over to you. You sit in a very unique position within Israel. You see countless companies, but then you also see the holistic ecosystem of where these companies can get plugged into. Talk about what makes Israel special, specifically to your role.
So I had a premonition you were going to ask me this, and I actually wrote notes 5 minutes ago. I will say this, you hear the story about look at the data, it's not a data play. Data is commoditized at this point. There's tons of areas to get healthcare data, and there's a big difference between the existence of healthcare data, the accessibility of it, and the relevance. What I've seen over the last 7 years that I've been in this game that is unique to Israel is threefold. The first is that it really is this critical density and this access to this critical density of technical and medical talent together. The fact that you can get to anyone within 2 degrees separation on WhatsApp creates this rapid pace of iteration, the speed of getting feedback, real-world evidence to check your algorithm, whatever. I think that's unprecedented. The other thing that's unique is this kind of symbiotic relationship between all the key players. There's 75 health-specific multinationals in Israel. All of them are scouting with startups, collaborating with startups. Almost all of them are doing clinical trials in Israel. The founders obviously working with the hospitals to do their early validation, working with whatever, and the healthcare organizations themselves who have this kind of built-in methodology of innovation management as an actual practice. How do you discuss working and collaborating with a startup? And then you have governmental support. So that's the second aspect. I want to actually, the third thing is something unique that I've found over the last year, and Gary alluded to it. I have witnessed a dedication to business continuity and commitment to deliverables that I have been shocked with. Major multinational pharmaceutical companies are continuing massive phase 3 trials and moving mountains to do it. Like Quant and Accenture, I wrote these all down this morning, Highmark and Laguna, Medtronic and Cathworks, AstraZeneca and Immunai, Oracle and Imaging. These are all things that have happened over the last year. NVIDIA and Pfizer investing in Cytoreason, $80 million, J&J and V-Wave. There's so many examples that to me are shocking, that are unprecedented in the ability to maintain that focus on getting work done. I really haven't seen that anywhere. It's also driven innovation. It's driven things because necessity is kind of the mother of innovation. So I'm seeing new things, specifically in emergency medicine, mental health, rehabilitation, government support programs for this. And some of these things are definitely applicable to the rest of the world. And I think that is really unique and unprecedented aspect of the Israeli ecosystem.
And while we're here in Malta right now, I think definitely you need to be speaking with the Maltese government because there's a lot of synergies going on between these small nation islands with a lot of power behind them.
Yeah, and I want to add, I'm not saying everything is perfect, right? Let's be honest. There's a lot of structural stuff that still needs to be done. A lot of initiatives I'm working on behind the scenes to maintain that primacy. And some of it's dirty. Tax policy, IP policy, all these things Malta as a country also needs to start dealing with if you want to up your game. And same with Israel if they want to maintain their game.
Jordan, you also come from a unique position. Originally born in the United States, immigrated to Israel, and started a medical device company in Israel. You could have started it in the United States, you could have started it anywhere, you started it in Israel. Tell us about your story, and then as a first-time entrepreneur building a company in Israel, to this day, why Israel?
Thanks, Giovanni. So, as Giovanni alluded to, I'm originally, probably my accent gives it away, that I'm originally from the US. I grew up in Chicago. And I moved to Israel about 6 years ago, when part of it was that, and I was working at Boston Scientific actually before, which is, and I'll get to that in a second, but that's how I got connected to the MedX Accelerator. Part of moving to Israel was a personal decision. Zionism, really, as you mentioned, your love for Israel is also my love for Israel, and it's being a part of the Jewish people. I always felt like that's our homeland. That's where we have to be. That's where we will thrive. And we won't get in the current situation. So I still think the future is bright for the Jewish people in Israel. And as far as when I moved there, I knew I always wanted to start a company, but because of the success and the ecosystem that everyone else has spoken to has made Israel such a ripe place for starting a company, it seemed like the best place for me to start a company. Part of the advantages that we get as first-time entrepreneurs are access to things like incubators and accelerators, like MedX. There are other ones, there's incentive as well, and there are a few others throughout the country that are actually supported by the Israel Innovation Authority to help start companies. And on top of that, the Israel Innovation Authority is an incredible source of capital for first-time and early-stage companies when you have a trouble raising money from private investors. I actually got my first grant from the IA for 100,000 shekels, about $35,000, 33, really with just an idea on the napkin. And that allowed us to build the first prototype. I then joined the MedX Accelerator formally, where they gave me my seed funding through an IAA grant, plus they're the private partners of the accelerator. And then from there, we've now taken off. I was fortunate to have mentorship from them and to work on advice, direction, and those kind of things, as well as to utilize the rest of the Israeli ecosystem to pick up the phone. Amir has also been someone who has spent a little bit of time with me here and there, and that's been that's one of the beauties of Israel, as Amir mentioned as well. 2 to 3 degrees connection. I can get a phone number of somebody I need help from. They're always willing to spend time to talk to us. So I didn't mention at the beginning either that Veinway is a company with the first device for crossing and opening chronic occlusions in veins. And the venous area is obviously one that's underappreciated right now, because it's not the one that's at the top of the focus for medical devices, which is what also makes it perfect for disruption. And so that's where we're getting started there. Thanks, Giovanni.
Thank you, Jordan. Michal, you have a very unique perspective because you're on the industry partner side, and you get to see all of these different companies, but also help them out, and correct me if I'm wrong, on the IR side, look at the global perspective. So I want you to touch base on what you're seeing in Israel in terms of innovation, why this is such a nation of the startup nation, and why Israel?
I can relate to all the things that Gary said, but I think I promised to speak also about some challenges. So I'm in a global role. Our firm has most of our people are in the US. We have about 400 people globally, 60 in Europe, and only 6 in Israel. But what happens is that we see so much deal flow from Israel, and we've got so many early stage companies reaching out to us. And I want to touch point on this early stage. The people sitting here at this panel are, mostly very successful and know what they're doing and know how to speak with investors and how to get their story out there and reach out and sleep on the floor. As we spoke about yesterday, if you have to make it happen, and that resilience is for sure by far, something that really drives the industry, along with this brotherhood. Yesterday, when we were in the investor panel, somebody said, it's so nice. I come from other industries. I've worked in the real estate investment industry. and in others. And when I come to the MedTech industry, everyone's here to help each other. So these VC people are all sitting in the room, and they all just want to help each other. And even if they're not going to invest in a company, they'll send it to their friend. And kind of everybody's trying to help each other. And that's, I think, accelerated in Israel for sure. Like everyone here said, you just pick up the phone and speak with these successful people who can help you along. And I think that Malta or anybody else who's looking to replicate that globally, I think it's that real sense of brotherhood. But I think the challenge, and this ties into cost efficiency, sometimes it's too much of cost efficiency, and I don't want to say cutting corners because it's not, but I think when we speak about challenges, it's especially in the very early stage, it's learning from other people. And sometimes the early stage entrepreneurs, they just want to move forward. They'll do whatever it takes to kind of make it happen, and we really need a lot of mentorship. And so I think some of the people here have been lucky to have mentors from abroad, but then bringing in talent, I want to talk about that, is so critical. Sometimes I'll advise to companies like, look, you're really Israeli, you want to come speak with US investors? If think about it, if you were building your house, you'd work with a contractor that your friend has recommended, right? It's the same thing with a US investor. They're going to hear about you from their friend. So they want somebody who can speak the language, walk the walk, talk the talk. So there's ways to solve that, whether it's bringing in a new CEO, which is, that's kind of later stage, but bringing in board members or a chairman from the US is super critical and could help with that, with capital raising, because, Gary is one of the nice people out there, but there are a lot of funds, global, no, not so much, okay. But not everybody sees that light and can understand the mentality, and so I think that is a challenge, but there's ways to solve it, and I think that openness to doing that is super important.
Thank you. And Shai, I want to toss it over to you because you've been an operator. We've known each other for a while, especially when you were an operator over at Endostim, and then you went over and started the accelerator, and now you have a fund. You clearly not only live in Israel, but you believe in Israel with the technology and also the investment side. What's it like being an investor in Israel? Is it Israel for Israel, or do you also look at outside opportunities, or what's the purpose of creating the accelerator and the fund?
So, first of all, I think, and some of you have alluded to this before, Israel right now, because of the situation and because of the lack of funding in general for MedTech, it's like, it's like a cookie jar for MedTech investors. You can find amazing technologies, amazing people at, ridiculously low valuations. So it's just, this is the time to be greedy, exactly as Gary said. And this is the whole concept of our fund. So although we are open to investments from anywhere, we are theoretically geographically agnostic, but so far, and I believe also in the future, the majority of our investments are going to be in Israeli companies. And I sympathize with what Michal was saying about the challenges of connecting Israeli entrepreneurs to the US market. I think that's probably the biggest problem that we see, not just with investors, but even long before, when they just get started, the distance mentally and geographically from the market, and it shows sometimes. So the way we chose to handle this, as you know, is a little bit different. We almost never invest in entrepreneurs coming to us with an idea. We start with a problem, with the unmet need we get from some multinational strategic partner, and we gather a talented group of Israeli entrepreneurs or a US physician or European physician, or like a group that can solve that problem. And we found this to be the best way to utilize the really amazing talent that you find in Israel in terms of technology and steer it in the right direction, solving the right problems. And then later on, when the company grows and needs to make their first clinical trial steps and commercialization steps in the US, we are trying to serve as a bridge with our office in the US to help them to kind of cross that bridge. So we are definitely aware of the kind of the gaps that you can find in Israel and try to kind of be the answer, not just with funding, but also with kind of support with our collaborators around the world to those entrepreneurs. And I think Jordan is one of those great examples.
Thank you. Thank you. Yuval, I want to toss it over to you. We've known each other for a while. You were actually the chief business officer for Rainbow Medical, Yossi Gross's accelerator when we first met. You then took over, watched you become a first-time CEO for Discure, watched you become a father a couple times over. We've hiked off the Dead Sea together, had amazing experiences together in Israel. I'm super grateful for that, by the way, awesome memories. But I've also watched you succeed in a very challenging time, where you recently just raised a Series A of 16 million. And by the way, I want everyone to applaud that this gentleman just raised 16 million in this past year. Please. I want to talk about like what makes Israel special for you. Were you able and possible and capable of doing that during a time over this past year for sure, and everything else that you have going on, some of the experiences that you had from the feedback of the investors? Just talk about that, because you've clearly been able to jump over mountains many times over, and I think it's a testament to the Israeli people.
Thank you, Gio. And I agree. I do think it ties to a few things that both that Chai said and you said, Gary. I think it's less the valuation. No, I'm kidding. You know, we do have a very difficult environment that we're currently in. Obviously, I think everyone here is aware of that. Investors, as a general rule of thumb, focus on reasons not to invest sometimes, and not necessarily why to invest. And being in what is effectively a war zone is a big glaring red flag reason why not to invest. And that presents a lot of hardship for a lot of good companies that are out there trying to raise capital. And it's not as if it was a bed of roses before October 7th. You know, capital markets have not been great throughout 2022, 2023. We also had our own political disruptions in Israel prior to October 7th with some political instability, which did not help the fundraising efforts that have been difficult everywhere, but even more so in Israel. And so many companies in Israel, like other companies elsewhere, reached late 2023 kind of with their tongue out, starving for cash. And then we had that October 7th terrible event that made things just even so much worse. So I do think on the one hand that indeed there are opportunities for sure for investors. There are good companies that remain good companies, and I'll speak in a minute on why I think those companies will rebound. And I think that is really the key part of this, not just the opportunity with valuations on the floor, but the fact that, you know, as Gary mentioned, if we can come through and achieve our milestones for Discure, it has been a terrific year, aside from just fundraising, just on execution, hitting our milestones ahead of time, under budget, throughout the last couple of years with all the difficulties around it. And it will become easier once things lighten up and become brighter. But I don't know what to call it exactly, if it's gratitude, if it's loyalty, but we come to this with a lot of passion. We're very passionate people, I think. We're very resilient people as well. We've been through hardship, throughout our history of the Jewish people. We've kind of been selected by force to be this resilient bunch that have survived these different challenges over the history. And I think that also shows in the people of Israel, and especially in the entrepreneurs in Israel. And if a group like for us, we had a very difficult time fundraising in 2023. It was tough everywhere. We did come very close, had the documentation in place to close around the middle of October 2023. Then October 7th happened. About 60% of our investors said, they called saying, well, we send you our prayers, but we can't send our funds, sorry. And that was tough. we didn't have too much runway, so we had to kind of buckle up and start all over, looking again for a lead investor. And we found truly bold investors who are willing to take that chance on the company and move forward and invest despite everything else, because they believed in the team, they believed in the company and the technology. And I think that will come back to them in the form of us feeling a great deal of loyalty to them and determination to meet that expectation and their belief And I think that determination is really what is going to make the change and going to bring forward that ramp up after 2024, when hopefully this war ends and we go back to normalcy. But I think that resilience will stay, and that determination and desire to prove these people right who trusted in us. And I think they will show that they will see the dividends in the IRR and the return that they see.
Maybe
Thank you,
one comment. I think that another group that is important here are the strategics. And I think because this is, the MedTech industry in Israel was not born yesterday. It's been a while that Israel has been producing very disruptive and amazing technologies. You could see that resilience also with the strategics. They know Israel will come back. They are still there. One of our LPs is a large multinational company, and we've seen, the Medtronics, J&J, Boston Scientifics of the world. They are still, definitely invested in Israel and continuing to and that's something that I think will continue to support the industry. So I think that's kind of the reliability that was built over time now is working for us.
Thank you for that point. And besides,
Can I shuffle the cards a bit?
I'm throwing it right over to you right now. You're going to bring us home. I just want to say that this man, Yoav, is going to be single-handedly responsible for building the bridge between Malta and Israel. So keep an eye out for this guy. But I want to throw it over to Amir Gross and bring this home real quick.
No pressure, right?
No pressure.
Okay.
I want to shuffle the cards a bit.
Shuffle them.
I listened to all the distinguished panel. I'm 20 years in the business. When I met you, you were young. I was also young. But past 20 years. In these 20 years, I raised, for a number of companies, over $150 million. In the last 20 years, it was always difficult. It's an inherent situation in Israel, okay? So forget about October 7, we had COVID, we had the Reform Act that also was not helpful on our behalf, because the head of the Association of the Healthcare in Israel, which I never appointed her, she said, no one will invest anymore in Israel. She said it. So guys, the valuation depends on you, on us, okay? Because I see my colleagues doing fintech, insurtech, gaming, cyber, whatever. They never have problem with valuations. Never, ever. Okay, so something is within us. And what is the problem within us? Goes as follows. We have, in the world, globally, by far, more money than good projects. By far, more money than good projects. In Israel, it's the opposite. We have more good projects than money. So we have inherent problem. What we do, we buy a ticket on a plane. Some can afford economy, some can afford business, and we go and we kick tires. You go and kick tires, and you present your technology in the best way you can, explain why your valuation is high, and this is what you will get. But if we ourselves will say, oh, we have problem, oh, we have so many problems. In the last 20 years, we always had problems, okay? Always. We had this issue with Gaza, then this issue with Lebanon, this issue with COVID, this issue with Gaza, this issue with Lebanon, this internal issue. Guys, every year there was an issue. During COVID, I was selling a company via Zoom. Everybody said there is an issue. During COVID, I was running clinical trial in Europe at the time that I almost hired a private jet because we couldn't do it. I said, okay, I'm spending $500,000 a month and nothing is happening. A jet is $50,000. We go on a jet and we do the trial. Eventually, we didn't do it. The team was very upset because they were already ready for the jet. But no, because they opened the airport in the end. But
and that's an example of Israeli creativity and getting around an obstacle.
Yeah,
exactly
but
right.
what I'm saying is, we really have great teams in Israel. We really have great technologies in Israel. We don't have the funds. So what? We go out, get the funds, and we don't need to be so cheap on ourselves, okay? You can raise in high valuations. It all depends how you tell the story. If you tell the story, I cannot have a call now because half of my team is in reserve army. If I cannot meet you next week because I'm afraid to fly, because maybe blah, blah. We create our own excuses, okay?
Just don't raise your valuations until I finish my portfolio.
No problem.
Okay, just wait a little bit.
No problem.
Same here.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the love of Israel, for the love of this amazing, distinguished panel, please give them a round of applause for everything that they've been able to accomplish and for them being able to come here from Israel today. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Giovanni, and the applause all deserved to you for your love to Israel, because Gary asked me, what the hell the guys love us so much? Thank you, and thank you for bringing us to the highlight.
Thank you, Jerry.
But I do see the synergy between Israel to Malta, and I do see that Malta can learn a lot from Israel, because eventually it's the same.
Thank you. Thank you.